Today's video is going to be an interview with a U.S. Army soldier. Hey guys, today I'm here with Robert Shepard, otherwise known as Major Shepard, recently promoted. That's awesome. Congratulations. Yeah. As some of you may recognize him, my previous AIT commander. Exciting. What was your life like prior to joining the military?
So prior to joining the military, I was a typical college student. So
okay.
I like to say I was enrolled in college.
Yeah.
Enrolled.
That's what I say too.
Yeah, I was enrolled in college, not too much going to class, but I attended Alabama A&M University in Huntsville, Alabama, and I was a college student originally. Funny thing, I went to college to play football.
Alrighty.
That didn't work. So I transitioned to the band because I've been dealing with music all my life. So I marched in the band my freshman year, and in a marching maroon and white, and from that I started working, and I started off as a cook at Shoney's.
Okay.
And then I was a server waiter, and that's what I did prior to joining the military.
At what point did you realize that the military was something you wanted to do?
So after I was basically flunked out of college, just put it like that.
Yeah.
I got to a space where, kind of hit a low point in my life in the sense of just things weren't going like I thought it was going to go. Like, you in school, you have your plan, and it wasn't.
Yes.
And I went home, and honestly, I said, God, I said, you know what, I'm tired. I said, look, you know what? I said, you take control. And this is no lie. Mm-hmm. The next day I woke up and it was like,
I'm joining.
A Be All You Can Be commercial came on. So, have you ever watched TV and you see a commercial come on like twice?
Yes, yeah.
So that's typical normal, right? Mm-hmm. For 8 straight commercials, every channel I turned to, the Army commercial came on. For 8 straight times.
Yeah.
And then that same day, originally from Alabama, so me and my mom, we go to Tuscaloosa, and we pull off. The car in front of us got a Be All You Could Be sticker. We're driving driving down the road going to the mall. They putting up a Be All You Could Be billboard. I've been out of high school a year and a half at the time, and I get in the mall. Guess who walked up to me? A recruiter. When I get home that day, I got a letter in the mail from the Army.
Really?
Yes. So that's how I said, you know what?
I'm going.
Yeah. So I said I'm going to talk to the recruiter, and went to talk to the recruiter. And
well, how'd your mom feel about it, and the rest of your family?
So I come from a military family.
Oh, really?
I wasn't. Both of my grandfathers, my paternal grandfather fought in World War II. Oh. He was in a seaport company that was in the Philippines during World War II. And my maternal grandfather fought in the Korean War. Mm-hmm. And so they were drafted. I had an uncle who retired military, and another uncle who was in the reserves. I wasn't anti-military, but I wasn't going to go in the military.
Yes, yeah.
But one of the best decisions I've ever made. So.
Mm-hmm. As a recently promoted major, you've clearly done several years in the military. How has it changed over the years?
So, funny thing that you say that.
I mean, you've been in longer than I was, so you have a different perspective.
I'm just saying, so this month on the 18th will be 23 years for me in the military.
Wow.
23.
That is incredible.
Yeah, so over half of my life I've been in the military. Mm-hmm.
So you've definitely seen all the
I've
changes.
seen it all. This is my 4th uniform. Mm-hmm. So I came in old school when it was BDUs, before the DCUs, the ACUs now.
Yes.
The OCPs, and it's changed a lot. it changed with the society. Just like
even in my 4 years, I've seen some changes, so I can imagine you.
But me, I kind of embrace and enjoy the change. So it's hard for some people to adjust to it, but
yeah. So socially, you would say is where most of the changes have been.
Yeah, I mean, yes, definitely, without question.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like as society, we've definitely changed our views in a lot of things. You know, some things are not morally accepted anymore. So, especially in like basic training and stuff like that.
Yeah.
In your opinion, you know, with the times, technology has, you know, incorporated its way into the military. How has that changed the military?
I'll tell you, it changed dramatically. So just to put things in perspective, right? When I joined the military, I never had a cell phone. Like the only thing I had at the time was a pager.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So like when I joined the military, they still had like payphones everywhere, right?
Yeah.
So I remember I didn't get my first cell phone until I got to my first duty station, and I got one of them old Nokia, the brick phones.
Oh yes,
the
indestructible
ones.
Yeah,
the one that stayed charged for like a week straight.
Great technology has made everything in the military so much more convenient. On the flip side, though, I feel like you can say that technology has kind of invaded, you know, soldiers' lives in the aspect as, you know, it's obviously not a regular 9 to 5, but, you know, at that 5 o'clock, soldiers generally kind of want to go home to their families, unwind, but you still have, you know, NCOs and stuff like that reaching out and trying to prepare for the next day. So it's kind of interesting to see how technology changes dynamics a little bit.
It does. One thing I would say with technology is just, speaking of that, is it gives you more access.
Yes.
But it's also created a lot of distance.
Now, with everything that you've seen, and I feel like with the way we're going, why do you think that the military is struggling so much to get people to sign up? I feel like you see that everywhere. You know, they've increased bonuses. You know, commercials after commercials.
Well, I think
what's going on.
I think a lot of it is it's really about the change, the shift in our society. You know, we are all volunteer military.
Right.
I know the military is not I would say a career is not for everybody.
Oh, I agree.
But I think that everybody can benefit from
Absolutely.
the things and the structure and all those things in the military. And I think there's a lot of myths out there when you talk about military, right?
Ooh,
so
yeah.
So like, you know, with you serving, you being in, and you seeing a lot of things, and it's not all as bad as what people say certain things are.
Yes, 100%.
But then the stuff that people, most of the things, and I'm not saying some people have some experience, some not so good things in the military.
Right.
But overall, when you think about it, most of the things that people complain about is stuff that they just didn't want to do.
Yes, absolutely.
So it's not, you see what I'm saying? It's
not wanting to wake up at 5 o'clock for PT.
But you signed up for it. You see what I'm saying? But then when you think about it, if you just break it down, you really didn't work that much.
Not at all.
No, I'm just, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it was a trade-off. Like, okay, I had to get up a little bit early, but how much am I actually working?
Yeah,
like
your exercise.
Yeah. Oh, do I have to? Think about it too. Look at it, right? When you transition from the military, if you don't work those hours, you don't get paid for those hours.
I know. Oh my gosh. When I got out, the transition where I was like, oh yeah, you know, I was so used to getting that check no matter what.
Yeah.
And then that transition to the hourly job, I was like, oh my God, I actually have to show up.
Yeah, so that's, you see what I'm saying? So like, I think a lot of times we get spoiled with that.
Yes, absolutely.
Because most of the time, if you never really worked outside the military, you join, you don't have that point of reference.
That's true.
So you see the people who typically worked a little bit before joining.
Yeah,
they have
chilling.
They have a different perspective while they're in. So,
yeah, absolutely.
So I just think, just to get back to your question, I think the struggle is just really relating to the younger generations and seeing how it benefit them. And you know, they're just that's a reality of it. Instead of just, you know, that's how everything is. It's our society is about how people can benefit from it.
That's true.
You see what I'm
We
saying?
definitely become like the me generation.
Very self-centered.
Yes.
It's just selfies.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
It is social media.
It's social media driven, right? Mm-hmm. So I think we're getting around to it, but I think that we have struggled with staying abreast with the times as far as just relating to them how it can benefit. It's not like what it used to be. You see what I'm saying? And
so for those out there that are, considering joining, what advice would you give to them?
I would say if you're really thinking about joining, I would just say just do it.
Just do it.
Like honestly, it's
such a big decision.
But it's a big decision. But I would say it's a decision. It is one of the very few decisions that we have that you can make, that you can benefit from that decision for the rest of your life. That's
true. That's very true.
So like if you're trying to figure things out, but you see what I'm saying? But if you're trying to figure things out, you may not know what it was. And I was like, one of the best decisions I did was I made a decision and I went with it. Like I didn't sit around and wait. I didn't sit around and be like, I'm trying to figure this out. I just say, you know what, I'm gonna do it. I wasn't gonna be in the Army for 4 years. I had my mind made up. Yeah, 23 years later, I'm still in.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But I was just gonna do 4 years. And then when I got in, I was like, this
isn't so bad.
It's not hard.
Yeah. What is it? Right place, right uniform, right time.
Right attitude.
And right attitude.
So yeah.
So when someone gets in, what advice would you give them to survive basic? Because I feel like, basic is one of those moments in your Army career that everyone's always like, oh, what do I do? How do I screw it up?
So my experience is at basic was probably
a lot different than ours.
But I would just say this. How you was raised play a big role with how tough basic training can be for you.
That's so true.
So like, my hardest thing I had to deal with at basic was not saying yes sir and no sir.
Yeah.
Instead of yes drill sergeant, no drill sergeant. That was it. Like being where I'm supposed to be. Like I grew up in a structured environment. I grew up where I was part of organizations where they had hierarchy and stuff like that. So it wasn't a problem for me. But some people. It was a significant emotional event for me.
I know. People like spazzing out. For me, at least, I lived in a yurt prior to basic. So I was like, this is so much room. I get these long showers. This is great. I can do this. I'm not like 2 inches away from somebody. Yeah. So I agree with, how you're raised and prior. It makes a big impact. So as a commander, I imagine it's very difficult dealing with like so many soldiers. What are like some of the harder aspects of being a commander?
So I'll say one of the hardest aspects of being a commander is accepting the reality that you can't save everybody.
Yes. That's
true.
So,
like, you can care for everybody, but getting to that point to where you have to realize some people have to want it for themselves.
That's true.
So my style, I would say, even as when I was the AIT commander, right? So I just tried to be engaging.
Yeah.
And then just try to let people know that what AIT was like was not what it's gonna be like.
Yes.
And then just kind of do my best to prepare you for what you was going to experience, even though you may not have known it at that moment. But some of the hardest things was just realizing that some people just don't want better.
That's true. It's interesting. Like people make it past basic, and for the most part, majority of AIT, and they just like still don't really want it. You know what I mean?
So I
at that point, just commit.
Yeah, I can recall people coming in my office like, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm like, oh, the Army ain't for me. And I'm like, you've been in the Army 3 months.
Yeah, you really ain't been in the Army like that. At least give it a year.
Give it some time. I'm like, hey, at least do your 3-4 years then you get out, like you're not thinking about 20, 30, 40 years down the road. Yeah. Just whole lot. It's not as bad as that as you think.
Yeah, absolutely.
But they'll be like, oh, this is what, and then you try to advise, and that's what I do. And then most of them, I want to do it. And
I remember as because I was one of your soldiers. I remember that you were so big into like morale. What was it like that made you feel like morale was one of the important things?
So think about it, right? If you're having a good time, you tend to enjoy what you're doing, and it tends to break up a lot of the monotony of, like I used to tell you all the time, like AIT is like Groundhog Day.
Yeah,
get up to PT, go to class, get out of class, do bed check, get up, PT, go to class, out of class, do bed check. Yeah. And it was just like that, right? And then knowing that you were there for the time that you're there, average 4 to 6 months, right?
Yeah.
What can you do to kind of break some of that monotony? And having a morale, and me, if I'm gonna do something, I want to have fun. Yeah. So just wanted my biggest thing was letting you guys have a positive experience.
Yeah, I remember, what was it, every Friday that we would do it? Yep. And I just remember, like, I was always, you know me, I was a little rascal. And I remember that one day that I won, what was it?
Soldier of the Week.
Yes, and I was so surprised. I was like, me? What? And it's funny because, like, after I won that, I was like, wow, if a little shithead like me can get this, maybe I can square up and, get my life together. So I did think it was a very beneficial thing. And as, my commander, that was one of the bigger things that stood out for me, for you.
I appreciate that. I would tell you, so just wanted to influence positive behavior. And one thing, people like to be recognized.
That's true. Yeah.
So I told the drill sergeants every week I would go to them, like, who do you think? Who do you think? Like, who? And then what was funny was what happened that I didn't expect was soldiers would start coming and recommending other soldiers to the drill sergeant. Was like, hey, hey, this soldier did such and such and such and such. Hey, I recommend them. And I was like, dang. And then, the Phase 5 Plus too was incentive.
My gosh, yes.
That was an incentive that everybody kind of look forward to. So.
For those of you that don't know, Phase 5 Plus in AIT is when you kind of get a lot more privileges. Yep. What was it? You can wear like civilian clothes.
You can, if you had 2 battle buddies, you can go off post.
Yes.
And so, that became...
And, going off post was, a dream. Because, you're in AIT. You can only go within the walls of your confines. So, to be able to get out there and, see the outside world, it's like, wow, it still exists out here. I agree. Those are all really good, incentives for, soldiers to behave, make your life easier.
But it did, you had a positive experience from it, didn't you?
I did. Yeah. I did. So when you had a soldier that was in trouble, though, how would you determine, did you have a general rule of thumb that where if it was like myself, slightly misguided, or just,
To be honest with you, it was very similar to my parenting approach.
Okay.
Because I say that because it was more so of, I'll put it like this, right? It really depended on the individual soldier. I went in with each one. I didn't go in kind of with a preconceived what I was going to do. Right. If a soldier got in trouble about something, if they took ownership of it, then the punishment will be a little bit different. If you came in and it was blatant that you were wrong or guilty, and you try to blame it on somebody else, then there's just I just didn't have any patience for that. Yeah, because it was really about learning the lesson. Because you got to think, but most of the stuff that people did, it was minor stuff. like people just trying to see what they can get away with.
Yes, very big on testing boundaries.
Yeah, testing boundaries. So, it's some stuff that was just like, it was no brainer, like just not going to tolerate. But most of it just really depended on the individual soldier.
How has having kids impacted your Army career?
It has definitely. First of all, being a father was something that, like, how people, like, that was a dream. Like, honestly, like, being a dad was like,
yeah,
I like that
going
was
to be a parent.
Yeah, like I was there, and I just enjoy the experience. I enjoy like taking care of, providing. I enjoy all of it. Like that right there that's in my DNA. Like,
yeah.
And I just wanted to be a parent where I could relate to them, but it really helped me be more empathetic as a leader. Because now it gave me a different perspective that before I didn't have. I had a lot of the same traits, but I didn't have the right that perspective of having somebody that I had to take care of. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, if you're in a relationship with another adult, it's different.
You gotta take care of them.
Yeah, you choose to, but like with that child, it was like boom. So I can remember when my son was born. I was deployed to Iraq.
Yeah.
It was 2004.
And tell me a little bit about that. I imagine that must have been pretty difficult.
Yes, it was. I would just say I remember finding out that I was going to be a father 4th of July of 2003. I remember it. The morning I woke up and I was, told I was going to be a dad, and I was very, very excited. And then about 2-3 weeks later, we found out that we was going to be deploying.
Yeah.
So when I deployed, his mother was like 3.5 months pregnant. So the thing that was difficult for me was I didn't get to experience that fullness of the pregnancy.
Yeah.
Because that was something that I was looking forward to, going to the doctors and all, like,
yeah,
but I didn't get a chance to do that. And I made the decision to, because back then when we deployed a year, we could stay, you get 15 days of R&R. So that we went back, and I made the decision to go back after he was born, because they would, the rule was they would send you home 7 days prior to the due date.
Yeah. And
then you'll be there for 15 days and then 8 days. So I'm glad I did do that, because my son was 8 days late. So like literally I would have had to leave the day after he was born.
Oh my gosh.
And so I did it 2 weeks after his 3 weeks after his projected date, day he was born.
Did you make it?
So I made it after I did go home.
Yeah.
But he was 2 weeks old when I got home.
Okay.
And I still have a picture of him. The first day I met him, he went to sleep on my chest.
Oh,
and cute. That was a great experience, just being there. I was like, the day he was born, I got like a picture of him. I like print out the picture and show everybody on Fob Junction City, like, hey, this is my son. He's born. So I was just like ecstatic.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. I know sometimes being in the military, it's very difficult, especially with kids. And some soldiers try to, maneuver their careers the best they can to keep their kids in mind. Do you try to keep your children near family, try to stay near bases that are close to, family, or do you just take your assignments as they come?
No, so my family always been my priority.
Yep.
So like, I'm not one of those where I'm chasing a certain position that would help position me to get the next rank. No, I mean, like, everything has worked out because I think my priority's always been in the right place. So
that's good.
It worked out for like how I got to Fort Gordon. My oldest daughter was finishing high school in Augusta. And I left my family when I went to Korea prior to that. So I moved my family from Fort Lee to Augusta, and my daughter was going to school. She graduated there, and I was getting ready to leave Korea. I didn't have an assignment, and I was like, hey,
send me here.
Yeah, no, I didn't even. I was like, hey, look, I just want my assignment list. I wasn't even planning on going to Augusta. And when I talked to Branch, and Branch was like, hey, we just had something pop up at Fort Gordon. And
take it.
I was like, take it, and I took it, and that's how I ended up there. So like it just worked out. It worked out.
Do you think as like an officer you kind of have a little bit more control on where you go than the youthful enlisted?
So duty station, it's only been 2 duty stations that I picked.
Out of how many?
Out of, hold on.
I mean, 23 years, that's quite a few to get some knocked
8
off.
duty stations.
Dang,
yeah,
that's
so
pretty good.
I picked my first one, that's Fort Hood, that I picked at
you got your first one?
Because I got my first one because when I signed up, I took the pre-ASVAB and all that, so my scores were high, so it was like, hey, you can pick your MOS, you can pick your duty station.
Yeah.
And how I picked my duty station, I picked it because Fort Hood was 2 hours from Dallas, and my brother just moved to the Dallas area. So that's how I picked Fort Hood.
Okay.
But then I picked Germany when I commissioned.
Was that because you wanted to visit Germany? Or?
I just wanted to go. Yeah, I wanted to go to Germany, and I'm so glad I went to Germany.
I picked Germany as my first place.
Yeah, I'm so glad I went. I had a blast.
That's awesome. There. So, as a big sexual harassment advocate, Sharp played a big role in my career. And as someone who's been in for several, I wouldn't, maybe not several, a little bit longer than several years. I imagine you've seen the evolution of Sharp. How has it evolved over the years?
It's definitely evolved to the point to where, many people may argue that saying, oh, it's not where it need to be. And I can say in some areas, I mean, you can make that case.
Yeah.
But comparably speaking, for me over 23 years now, like it has come, it has come a long way, and a lot of resources, a lot of efforts have gone into being there to provide those resources for that. So I can look at it from the lens of, how it used to be to where it's at now, and seeing how much it has grown and how much the Army and even the military has invested into developing it. So you go from nobody wasn't even talking about it when I came in. I've never went to it just wasn't even a class, it wasn't even a requirement. So now each battalion having reps, a brigade having that's their job. It's grown tremendously. Yeah. And there's certain things, even certain steps put in that if you don't follow these steps, you can lose your career. That's how serious it is. Even as a commander, there's certain things that me as a commander, I could have lost. If something happened and I didn't do the right thing, I could have lost my career.
Dang.
So that's how serious it is, and that's how much they invested into that program. So.
That's interesting. Yeah. That's really cool. I didn't know about the commander aspect.
Oh yeah. Yes.
So if someone brings forward a claim, is it here's your guidelines? This
is what you have to do. And if you miss a step, no, you can be held accountable for it. It's that serious.
Wow.
So yes.
Do you have to take separate training then in order to know these, or are the steps pretty basic? So
it's pretty basic, but they give different training. They do sharp training for the soldiers. They do sharp training for commanders too as well, and you get advised by the battalion and brigade reps, and they advise you on what steps you.
Sounds pretty tough,
Yeah, I mean that's what we call the burden of command.
That's true, Yeah. What is it? Heavy is the head who wears the crown.
Yeah, heavy is the head who wears the crown.
So I've heard I don't know if rumor is the correct word to call it, but some talk that maybe Sharp should be civilian ran. In your opinion, do you think that it should be still held to the Army to keep up the standards, or would it be better?
So I would just say this, right? When you look at the prosecution and the conviction rate of sexual harassment or Sharp related incidents in the military, comparably speaking to the civilian side, it is exponentially more that are being prosecuted and people being held accountable on the military side compared to speaking on the civilian side.
Yes. And I do feel like the military, just because we have that I don't know, like that higher standard of, you know, how the soldier should behave, we also have those stricter rules and punishments, you know.
And I don't know if you remember, but I used to always speak on it, like on the Fridays, talking about like, hey, I know that certain things that may have been acceptable on college campuses,
it's
not acceptable. No, but you look at it just for our professional environment, right? And just try to. So I think that it needs to be. I'm an advocate for it staying the way that it is, but also having, you know, not just an isolated, like it's just straight military, but you can kind of say bridge some of it together with civilian and military. If you're just going straight civilian, then I think that
it might lax more.
You would see a lot less prosecution being done. So.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I feel like as a society, we still have a lot more, you know, even excluding the military, we have a lot more to grow in the sexual harassment department, you know, taking it a lot more serious. And
my sister, like she does that on the civilian side. She advocates for that on the civilian side, and just having conversations with her about how certain laws are set up that where, you know, a lot of people are not held accountable for
things that they do.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate. I definitely would like to see things, you know, maybe follow the military a little bit more with the strictness, you know. But our final question for you is, with instances like the Vanessa Gillen, I'm sure you've heard about, do you feel like the Army does enough to protect its females?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
I think that when you're looking at it from a perspective of, I think people don't realize, first of all, I want to make this clear so everybody understands, right? This is not an attempt to dismiss the atrocity that happened to Vanessa. And the inaction of her leadership at the time. This is not to dismiss that.
Yeah.
But what I do want to talk about is we never talk about the cases that people did the right thing.
That's true. I will give you that.
And there's a lot of people that are doing the right things that nobody ever talks about.
Yeah.
And you have an incident which was a tragic incident that happened.
And then it's so
then it's so publicized, and then it publicized, and then now everybody come out like, oh, you know, this, that, and the third. So I can use this example. During the time you was at Fort Gordon, right? It was an incident that happened, right? Of a female soldier, who went online and basically said she was physically assaulted by a male soldier. Right? And her chain of command didn't do anything. It was outrage. Like people coming on, that's why I don't trust the military, because they don't take care of people, blah, blah, blah. Until her classmates came on and told the truth. Where she took the guy, her and this guy was, you know, they was battle booze, like we said.
Oh my God.
She took his phone. She took his phone, cash out money from his cash app to her. Right? Then he was outside. When he found out about it, he confronted her, whatever. He left her alone. Then a few days later, he was outside talking to another female. She came outside and started to assault him. What he did was just stopped her and pushed her away. And then now she went to social media. And they didn't do anything, blah, 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 and it went like almost like viral, right? People see that and they jump on that and they be like, oh, that's what's wrong with the military.
Yeah, the military definitely is under a big spotlight.
Yeah,
but you can't do anything wrong otherwise.
But just think about the thousands of soldiers that went through there. When you were there. In my time as a commander, it was probably in a year's time at Fort Gordon. It's probably about 15 to 20,000 soldiers that rotate through there in a year's time. and you have one incident that somebody said something that wasn't even true or factual, and people will just say, boom. You see what I'm saying? So like in that case, it goes back to what I'm saying. In the military, you have a lot of things that first of all, when people do wrong, they should be held accountable.
Absolutely.
And I think that the military is getting better at holding people accountable for that lack of leadership. And you have to think about this. People don't talk about it, but in her case, people all the way up to the general officer level got relieved.
Really?
Yes, a lot of like careers are like over.
Yeah.
For that. Sadly, that the incident happened to her, but everybody is talking about the military as a whole. Yeah. But I'm talking about too, it's
you definitely have to think of the people.
but the individual that did it to her.
Yeah.
Now there was a lot of holes in what happened with that. And my prayer is not only for her, and I'm glad that it raised awareness in a lot of places where we needed to fix some gaps. But I just wanted to say that from that perspective is, would I feel safe with my kids in the military? I would. That's just me. Because
boys or girls do you have?
Boys, I have both boys and girls.
Okay.
I will feel safe with it, but I also will realize too is I don't feel safer with my daughter being on a college campus.
No, oh gosh, that's true.
No. I'm just. We don't have those conversations though.
I mean, if I'd been honest, I joined the military because I wasn't sure what the college would, hold for me. And I was like, being an impressionable young woman, I feel like colleges are a lot.
Well, no, I'm just saying, just there are threats anywhere, in any place that you go.
That's true,
right? And I know some people have different experiences than me. So one thing I would never say, and one thing I'm not going to try to suggest is, I don't know what it's like to be a female in the military. So you would never see me try to act like I know or be dismissive of those. So I've worked with females my entire 23-year career. I've been a huge advocate for females in the workplace.
Yeah.
And I'm a strong supporter of, treating everybody with dignity and respect.
Yeah.
I would just say that from me and my scope, right? I just see it to where, I don't think that it is. I think it's still overall, when you look at it, it's a safe place.
Yeah.
That I've seen people get treated, get the necessary help that they need. Because one thing that I do want to say, sexual assault is not just on females.
That is so true. Males,
but we don't,
have to deal with it a lot too, and they don't report it.
In 23 years, I've known a few that has, the same thing, similar things happen to them. But that's a discussion that's never really talked about.
Yeah.
But they get the help.
Yeah.
If they choose to get it, it's there for them. You see what I'm saying? And I've seen it to where things happen to people and people go away, and then now they have it. If they want to, it can be years later, and they finally ready to talk, and and people put the full court press behind it to adjudicate them, to get them the justice that they need. So I've seen it all. So
that's good. Getting personal, being a female in my military career, especially an attractive, semi-attractive, won't toot my horn too much, but, having to deal with like sexual harassment, I do feel like it's what makes it, not obviously the experience, but like the outcome is your leadership, because, when I was in AIT, obviously, I had some stuff going on, and I feel like my leadership, and including you, were very like hands-on. They weren't overtly pushy, trying to like get everything, but they were there backing me, and I felt like supported. Versus, in other units, where it's not as talked about, so it's interesting seeing how different units things will play out,
Yeah. One thing that I wanted to do was, I would say, give a positive example So you at least have a positive point of reference.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I feel like that's where, at least in my opinion, for a lot of younger females, especially joining, it's important for them to experience that, having that positive leadership that promotes morale, that promotes, the proper way to handle sexual harassment and, all of these great things so that they know that standard. And
so if you remember, prior to everybody leaving, I tried to meet with everybody and like, hey, I use the new kid in school analogy.
Yeah.
Like you the new kid in school, so like everybody, just and like even with my daughter went to college. I had certain conversations with her.
Yeah.
Like, hey, this is a reality.
They may not be comfortable, but
but this is a reality, and these are certain things. If these things happen, this is how these are some steps you can take.
Yeah.
And I just try to be honest with that from that perspective because you don't know where people are going. You don't know the people because the same people from the society we come from is the same. That's who's
people in the military.
Yeah. So I mean that's just the reality of it. And the hope is that everybody has the same positive experience, but I just wanted to control what I can control.
Absolutely.
So at least when you left, you can look back on it and be like, you know what, AIT wasn't as bad. I may hate where I'm at right now, but AIT wasn't that bad. So
yeah, absolutely. And I appreciate you answering all my questions. I feel like they were pretty good ones. Not too tough, but insightful. I appreciated learning what your perspective is on all these things. And that's all I have for you guys. As always, make sure to give this video a like and subscribe. Do you have a YouTube channel?
I do. So the Conversation 98. So if you go to @theconversation98, that is my YouTube channel. I do a weekly podcast. So
yes. I see your stuff. I'm like, oh, this is good stuff.
I try to do a lot of I deal with a lot of different I try to deal with real topics that from a perspective, things that people don't usually talk about but want to talk about or think about by themselves. So so
interesting things.
So interesting things. So I do it on Saturdays, typically at 6 o'clock Eastern, 5 o'clock Central. No, PM.
Oh, thank God. I was like, oh.
So go check it out. I have some good content on there. Alrighty,
bye guys.